And so I have this question for you, Chad, about continuing on that theme. How do you utilize technology in your department? Have you noticed that it's helped maximize efficiency? Have you seen a dramatic reduction? Because a lot of times people in legal departments, we're eager to take on new legal tech and then we take it on and then we never implement it. And then a year later, accounting says, so what did you do with that 15,000? And the answer is nothing. We're actually in a worse position because we spent all that time getting to this product and no one's using it. So how do you approach that?
For sure. And this has probably been like the biggest development for me and how my legal function supports my company over the last couple of years. So I was a buyer of tech at Indigo. And so I saw lots of different types of SaaS agreements because typically you get the seller's form, everything from Oracle to mom and pop shop. And what I realized was like there's a lot of different formats, short to long, stuff online, everything in the document, old school, embedded, commercial and legal terms mixed together, schedules, all kinds of things. And then when I came over, my company is a collection, a portfolio of companies that each have their own 20-year history that have all been slammed together in the last few years. And so like any, individual small tech company, it's a very product and sales type organization, and you're doing whatever you can do to try to keep the growth. And there isn't a lot of kind of process maturity, intentionally and unintentionally. And so when I showed up, it was a classic, you have a CRM tool, we use Salesforce, but you have a CRM tool that is basically, and it captures maybe some prospect pipeline information, maybe out of date, maybe from 20 years ago, maybe current, depends on the seller. And then you got some account management stuff. Maybe there's some information about support cases or health scores, or maybe not. And it has very little accurate commercial information. And I noticed that. And the way that I knew that very quickly is because all of the companies each had their own 15-page Word document where you fill in the yellow fields for the commercial details, and either the legal function does it as a gatekeeper or the sellers or the account management people do it. And there's all kinds of variety of quality and whatever. So it was classic. And instead of to your point about like how lawyers get caught in buying, budgeting, and owning legal tech and I'm not doing anything with it, I instead just tried to be curious. And I was like, okay, so let me learn about all these different functions, sales, account management, what's going well, what are the pain points? In any company that doesn't use a CRM tool, isn't mandated, it's an optional tool, then your data is all over the place. And so, okay, what does that mean? It means that if you ran the sales function or if you ran the account management function and every quarter or every month you got called to the table to give a report on your pipeline or your client expected churn or whatever, that's hard. That's hard to do. Okay, so how do you make it better? Well, everyone wishes the CRM tool is more up to date. Okay, so how do you get there? You have to make it mandated. Okay, how do you get there? Because that's everyone's dream. Now you have the answer. Guess what? Legal tech that implements with Salesforce or any CRM tool requires Salesforce to be used for the contracts to work. That's how you do it. Because you have to drive back to what matters to the individual human, not to you. Legal function doesn't matter. Nobody cares. They're just expecting you, like Jamie and Ryan have said, to do the work and get it done. They don't, it's not their function. So nobody's going to solve it for you. And if you try to solve it from your own perspective, you're going to buy tech that you never use. So instead, what you do is you find out why other people, what they're struggling with and how they could benefit from it. You frame up a solve to their problem. Immediately they become the champion, right? They want it. Maybe it's their spend. Maybe it's their implementation because now they realize how critical it is to them. Guess what? They actually have better tools to do it than you do. They've got ops teams. They've got people who know the CRM platform. They're motivated because now they know that their commissions and their paychecks and their team's exposure to the company on how they're doing is tied to that working. And so that's how I did it. I wasn't trying to do it cynically. I just knew that was the most efficient way to do it so that they would benefit from it. And they saw that story, realized how good it was, and we used their ops teams to implement it and to run it today. So the sales ops team and the account management ops team manages the CRM platform, makes sense. The legal tech that's bolted onto it, they essentially manage that too, like any tool that's bolted onto a CRM system. And so, that's how I did it. And it dramatically changed the way we run the company. Yes, of course, it saves me time and it keeps things more consistent because legal terms are online and service descriptions of products are online. But it makes the contract from 15 pages that someone's got to populate to 2 pages or 1 page that is driven out of data. So now you've got something that's automatically done 24/7, no matter where your people are in the world. They can push buttons to populate these things that can be e-signed that, as long as they're standard, you would never see or have to support as a legal function. But they, again, don't care about that. What they care about is now they've got their data. So now they can slice and dice reports. It's easy for them. They look and are very professional in their forecasting. And that's the magic. Like you got to do things from other people's perspective, especially when you need their help.
I think it's a really fantastic suggestion. I think all of us sitting here and all the attendees are probably thinking, wow, I wish we had that system set up. And so I just urge everyone after this webinar is over, do something, like do a small actionable task just to get started on this process to implement a system where things are actually getting done and you're utilizing existing tools. And yeah, I just can't overstate how important it is what Chad just said. Lisa just asked a question. She's asking if you have suggestions if different departments need different things, like different
Like
systems.
if they want to use access different systems that are not your choice and you've got to support them in doing it.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, the way that I think about anything that I'm asked to do as a lawyer is I don't run when people start telling me do this. I try to understand why they're even talking about it in the first place. And I think where lawyers get tricked, especially the ones that are coming out of law firm training, is since it's a monopolistic entity, only lawyers and very specific things, whenever you hear something at Osler or Castles or wherever you work, you are going to do that thing. It's 98% sure you're going to do it. Businesses don't work that way. Things are ideas. There's many ideas and it goes many different ways. So if you have and everyone uses the same words, but they all mean different things. And so in any example, but if in this one someone was like, hey, we want to use Asana, we want you guys to use Asana, I wouldn't even worry about it. I'd be friendly about it, but that doesn't mean that's what I'm going to do. What I then try to do is be like in the friendliest, jokiest, nicest way is understand what they're trying to achieve. What is the pain? And where do they think they're trying to solve it? Because from my experience, I've spent half my career in a firm and half my time in industry, is that business people are very open to a variety of solutions. It's very different than working at a law firm. And as soon as but it sounds like you have to do this thing they're talking about. And so I think if you're curious and you have humility and you're trying to like understand what the frustration they're feeling or the goal they're trying to achieve, people are very open to a variety of things. And maybe you use Asana, but maybe you're like, actually, I've used Asana in the past, and here's the pros and cons of it. You're talking about these two things that are a win for you. Those are difficult with Asana. You could do it with this other tool. Do you want to demo both with me? That's the way that I do it. I don't worry about if people tell me, unless it's the 3% of the time when they are just going to tell you. But most of the time, I try to understand and then learn about it and just use the humility to learn. And then maybe Asana is amazing for you too.
And maybe if I could step in, one thing that I did with Chad saying is also, I think Chad maybe goes in as well, is that I always find it helpful to also be proactive. And if somebody raises, hey, we have this issue and we're looking into it, and there might be some component that is legal, say, oh, what's the issue? What do you mean by that? And try to dig into it sooner rather than later, because otherwise you're going to get the, hey, we're doing this. Can you look at this agreement? And you need to be done tomorrow, because they'd forgotten the process to bring up to speed and that sort of thing. So try to say, hey, oh, I heard that you mentioned in that meeting that you're experiencing this issue, or something's changed here with a current provider. What's that about? And be generally curious to make sure that everything's streamlining together to try to make things, instead of saying this is the implementation plan, figure out the reason behind why that's happening and try to help guide that.
Thank you, Tiffany. So we only have a few minutes left. So I don't know if we have time for the final takeaway, or thinking maybe we just open it up for Q&A, because it looks like there's already a bunch of questions here. So Chad, the first question is from Stefano.